Hello, everybody. Just wanted to let you know, welcome to our webinar today, Elevate Healthcare Consumer Engagement Models. We will be starting the webinar shortly. We're just waiting for a few of the attendees to join us at this point in time. So please sit tight. Thank you for those who just joined us. We will be starting our digital roundtable here shortly. Welcome, everybody. We would like to introduce you to the SoftServe Digital Roundtable. Today, we're going to discuss elevating your healthcare consumer engagement by showing you some of the consumer engagement models that we have experienced in our time here at SoftServe. My name is David Greneisen, and I'll be your host today. I am an account executive for SoftServe, and I am also a subject matter expert with over 25 years of experience, both in hospital administration and in selling various healthcare solutions. Today's agenda is as follows. We have our introduction of our presenters, who you are seeing now on the screen. We're going to do a quick overview of SoftServe. Then we're going to get into the meat of the presentation of, going over the business value of and strategies for healthcare consumer engagement. We're going to look at various consumer engagement models for you. We're going to do a solutions example demo of the platform that we have for consumer engagement. We'll have a question and answer section, and then we'll have some contact information. I would ask, as the webinar is proceeding, that you use the Q&A section of your screen to send questions to the panelists. We will then answer those at the end as part of the Q&A area. So thank you and welcome. So today your speakers are as follows. We have Chuck Ross, who is our enterprise solutions consultant. And Chuck, I understand you have actually been an entrepreneur and developed your own healthcare application in the past.
Yeah, that's right. Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great afternoon. Early in my career, David, I started a company that automated the processing of EOBs, explanations of benefits. We call that electronic remittance processing. And it obviously had a huge impact on the business process for providers, but I think it's a great example of how we can kind of kill two birds with one stone. We can improve business processes while we're improving consumer engagement, because anytime you improve a business process that that our consumers and our patients are involved in, you're creating a better experience and improving engagement. So, and of course today we have a whole lot more technology than way back then when we did that. So it's a fantastic time to be involved in healthcare technology, and looking forward to participating in the event today.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate that. Next, we have Karina Bedoya. She is our senior client partner, and Karina is directly involved with our customers here at SoftServe and working with consumer engagement and other items. Karina, if you'd like to say a few words.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm a senior client partner with SoftServe. I manage a portfolio of accounts, and we help them build their digital transformation solutions. My background, I've been in the healthcare IT for over 20 years. I've worked with several EHRs, building applications for consumers. Some of them have been EHRs, patient accounting systems, portals, document management systems. So yeah, this is really exciting that we're doing a webinar about consumer engagement, because this is something that we're seeing a lot of movement with our projects, and it is really in our clients' mind, what are the digital transformation solutions that they need to build moving forward to be competitive.
Thanks,
I'm very excited to be here today.
We look forward to your insights.
Thank you.
Last but certainly not least is Ior Vazutin, and Ior is our product manager. He's going to discuss more about the platforms that we have for consumer engagement. And Ior, I'll cede the floor to you for a minute.
Yeah, so I've been for a long time with SoftServe, and recent probably 10 years I've been assigned to a project related to consumer engagement, and also in the sectors like providers, payers, and life science. And I'm pleased to be part of this conversation. And stay tuned, at the end we have very nice demos of our innovation platform in Invention. I bet you've never seen them before.
Thank you, Ior. Appreciate that background. All right, so we're going to do a real brief overview of who SoftServe is. SoftServe is a global consulting organization that we pride ourselves on being able to help you determine, design, and deploy technology solutions within your critical business challenges that you have today. We do this by revealing and transforming, and then accelerating and optimizing those solutions for you. Our goal is always to realize immediate benefit. So we're not one to come in and give you a plan that will take many months or years to deploy. We are a very speed and agility driven company. And while we will partner and plan to partner with you for long periods of time, we want to make sure that you get immediate results. To give you a little bit more about the company, we have over 9,100 employees. We've been growing about 30% year over year. We've been in business for over 27 years. And we're very proud of that bottom right number, which is our Net Promoter Score. So in our industry, the average Net Promoter Score is about 26. The 75 that we rank at right now puts us in line with companies such as Apple for having their customers want to come back and continue engagements with us. We're very proud of that number. And then you can also see that we have over 6,500 engineers involved just in the company. So great depth on the bench and throughout the entire organization. From our healthcare vertical alone, we have, again, over 1,400 engineers just in the healthcare vertical, 70 plus active healthcare customers within the US. We have 700 and some developers, and again, really cover all of the aspects, from a design, user interface design, to the architecture, to the development, to the deployment, and then of course, analyzing that information with you so that we can again make you a better healthcare organization. The question I always get asked as we are out there in the field talking about the different healthcare solutions is, are you HIPAA compliant? Not only are we HIPAA compliant, but we make sure that all the certifications that are necessary from a security compliance, whatever the new latest certification is, amongst all our different client partners, SoftServe is dedicated to going out and making sure that we meet those certifications and continuously improve on them. So today's topic is consumer engagement, healthcare consumer engagement. And the big question is, well, what is healthcare consumer engagement? And the way we look at it is building a digital intimate relationship. We don't believe in just having a digital access to the consumer. We want to make sure that there's an intimate relationship with the consumer. And so at this point in time, I'm going to turn over the discussion to Chuck.
All right, thanks, David. And my work, my consulting and advisory work at SoftServe, I predominantly work in digital strategy, right? And it's one of those terms like digital transformation that may be a little bit overused, but really I have a simple perspective on that, is that when we're looking at a technology initiative, no matter what it might be, what we first have to consider is the business strategy that's driving that particular technology initiative. When it comes to engagement, it's pretty much the 3 R's, right? Revenue, retention, referral. These are the things that we're trying to improve by focusing on and investing in, developing intimate patient and customer relationships, right? But I think what's important to kind of keep in mind here is kind of the feedback loop from front to back when we're structuring our initiative and making these investments. We want to think of these not just as kind of the high level goals or anything like that. What we specifically want to do is focus on the OKRs, the objectives and the outcomes that we're really hoping to achieve on that. I mean, and let's face it, there's a huge opportunity here, right? For disruption in healthcare, and the timing is absolutely perfect in terms of the availability of technology and what we can employ here. And as I mentioned in my introduction, we're facing opportunities that improve internal processes as well as drive the objectives that we're trying to get at here. But a recent Gallup poll indicated that less than half of American consumers have a favorable view of the healthcare system. Maybe a third, if that many American consumers are satisfied with the state of the American healthcare. So really focusing on developing those intimate customer relationships is a huge opportunity that we're looking at in the market here. So we can kind of borrow when we start diving into the technology and the architecture. We just kind of borrow some lessons learned from marketing technology, and really we're talking about pretty simple, kind of an engagement feedback loop here, right? Where on the left-hand side, what we really need to do is focus deep understanding of our consumer and our patient, right? We're not only talking about that health and wellness concerns, their preferences, their profile data, if you will, but also their online behavior, their clinical information, all of the information that creates the picture of our consumers. We have to look at it from a big data perspective to take advantage of and leverage the technologies at our disposal today. That understanding creates an opportunity for us to automate our engagement processes, no matter what the combination of those technologies might be. That's kind of personal preference and also tied to personal strategy of the organization. But fundamentally, it comes down to the right message with the right media at the right time, right? Whether the message is something to remind a consumer or patient of an upcoming appointment, or just asking some wellness questions, or those sorts of things. The media is the device. Are we sending them text messages? Are we sending them email messages? My doctor's office, for example, has done a fairly good job and through the pandemic of keeping us informed of what's going on in the market, what we need to be aware of as consumers and patients. But it's also about timing. It's about knowing the precise moment when it's important, even down to the time of day in some cases, where we're going to send some sort of communication, or we're going to engage with our patient, with our customers in some form or fashion, right? But let's keep in mind that really what we're trying to achieve, we can achieve our business goals if we focus on our consumers, on our patients, right? The two aren't disconnected. And in fact, I'll talk on the next slide a little bit about kind of the who owns or should own the initiatives. But I live in Atlanta, and I've had a lot of opportunity in my career to work with the Centers for Disease Control here. Really interesting organization that does a lot of stuff, but they have put out some information basically on engagement that reminds us that patients are the best source of information on certain topics like general constitution, family history, and those sorts of things. So there is a tremendous clinical benefit to involving and engaging the patient in clinical in clinical activities as part of the engagement initiative. So it's not just a marketing effort. It's not just an IT effort. It's not just a process improvement or strategy effort. It is an objective to include and improve outcomes and wellness. Okay. So that's
so Chuck,
yep, go ahead.
I was going to say, so whereas a lot of people, and having been a hospital administrator in the past myself, I know that when some people think of consumer engagement, it's only like a web portal type of an approach. And obviously what you're getting at here is it's not the connection that's the consumer engagement. It's actually like a bi-directional process that actually is part of the healthcare and the wellness of the patients themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Engagement. I mean, and if you're only focusing on one technology, you're missing a lot of opportunity today, right? I mean, we've got we've got mobile, we've got conversational interfaces, we've got SMS and notifications that can be asynchronous with respect to other activities that we know of, and just in terms of patient management. So it's a really broad. When I said earlier that mix of right message, right media at right time is tied to the organization's personal perspective on strategy. That's really what I was getting at. There's enough pieces there to produce some variability that really differentiate the organization's strategy.
Thank you.
So hopefully the case for engagement is pretty clear. I don't think anyone would probably join this this roundtable if they weren't fairly sure that they were interested in an engagement initiative. So one of the things that we often talk about when I'm dealing with digital strategy, and kind of getting early involved in defining the OKRs and getting the initiative set in the right direction is who owns it. It's probably too frequently one of the four obvious departments or groups within the organization that it really, because this is a strategic effort, it's really a whole organization sort of thing. If we're only focusing on the marketing aspects of engagement, we're missing those clinical opportunities. If we're only focusing on the business processes, we're missing the marketing opportunity. So it really is a whole organization sort of effort. So with that, I think David, we've got our first poll question, right?
We do. Thank you, Chuck. So our first poll question of the day is, what type of engagement models do you currently use? So please select all that apply. This is a multiple choice. You can add as many as you have, whether it's a standard patient portal, the multi-channel inputs, including a patient-owned smart device, other multi-channel communications, the engagement that's, an engagement method between the provider, the payer, and the patient, or that you currently have none or it's very limited. So we'll take a second for everybody to list their answers, and then we'll get back to the results of the poll question here. And while you're answering that, I'd like to say, please don't forget to add Q&A questions for the group. We just received a really good one, and we'll be answering that shortly. So, excuse me. So, what type of engagement model is currently used? It looks like everybody's kind of using a standard patient portal. Some of that is built onto the smart devices. It's good to see that none have no consumer engagement. That would be terrible. And that the multi-channel communication seems to be the least used at the moment. So we'll discuss that in more detail. But this time I would like to introduce Karina, and she's going to talk a little bit more from our customer standpoint and what she's seeing out in the actual field.
Yep. Hi, everybody. So I want to talk about, what we're seeing among our clients in terms of consumer engagement initiatives. So what you see here is we try to put in sectors, our clients. So what you're seeing here is how we break it apart. So about 75% of our clients are in the provider space, whether they are ISVs, independent software vendors, or they are actually providers that provide care. About 20% of those clients are either medical equipment, supply, pharma, insurance, or life science. And if you can move to the next slide. What we did is we actually looked at that 75%, those clients that actually build, their services are to providers, to actual consumers, and also for clients that actually provide services in the provider space, but they're B2B. So what you're seeing here is the trends of projects that we do for those clients. On the B2B, you see that in 2018, we see that those projects continue to grow. Well, what is a big telltale for us has been since 2018, our businesses for those clients that actually do B2C, clients that actually provide healthcare services to consumers, have doubled every year, or more than double. So we are seeing a trend of our clients that actually provide consumer services, that they know that they have to have digital strategies to be able to reach to their clients or their consumers. Next slide. So what we also did is we actually look at those B2C, so those businesses that actually provide services to provide healthcare services. What we see is that about 54% of those services are digital transformations. And what we mean by digital transformation is actually they're doing some sort of digital solution. They are actually working maintenance or product. But about 50% of all of that work is actually related to consumer engagement solutions. So the other part that we're also seeing is B2C. They are looking at their data, big data, how to automate that data, how to make intelligence to improve workflows. We're also seeing a lot of those B2C clients looking at their cloud transformations. But the big part of this is all of those B2C businesses, when they're looking at digital transformation, they're directly related to consumer engagement solutions. What type of work that we're seeing they're doing in the next slide. So this is the kind of work that we're seeing those B2C clients doing. So obviously patient, mobile, anything that has to do of multiple device support. They want to make sure that they have the right device to be able to support those consumers with their tablets, mobile, the web. Voice-based is really important, and be able to apply AI so they can automate those workflows. With the recent changes with the pandemic, telehealth and telemedicine has just been accelerated tremendously. We've seen a lot of clients that have strategies on telehealth and telemedicine, but what's currently happening is they're looking to enhance the current solutions. And if they don't have a solution, they're accelerating those. Patient treatment compliance, this is something that we're seeing moving as well. And another area that is really growing for us is really connectivity between patients, care team, and devices, and the automation of those workflows. So we are just seeing an incredible growth for the B2C, people that really trying to get to those consumers and build solutions that are targeted to their specific branding.
So Karina, are you seeing that they have a strategy in place, or are they still kind of working on their ultimate strategy while they're executing on maybe some smaller strategies?
So what we see is all our clients really have a strategy on consumer engagement. So you see that all of them have it in their roadmaps, 3, maybe 5 years, they're thinking about it. Depending on which client is, we see that that journey is in different stages. They might be at the beginning where they're just defining what that strategy looks like. They already have a strategy and they're ready to implement it, or they already started in that process and they need to accelerate it. So I would say that they all have it. Now with the recent changes, what I've seen is a lot of our clients are trying to accelerate that. So because they know that they have to go digital, that they need better ways, that we are seeing a lot of projects coming in on how we accelerate those roadmaps now, then instead of wait 3 or 4 years to actually make it happen.
Thanks, Karina. That helps.
You're welcome.
I think we have our next polling question. So our next poll question is, how effective are your current engagement methods? Please select your best option, whether they're being very ineffective through neutral to actually very effective. And again, we'll give you a few minutes or for you, a little bit of time here to answer that question.
While we're waiting for responses on the poll there, I was going to ask Karina a question, if that's okay. Karina, I'm curious
Absolutely.
I'm curious what sort of KPIs, what sort of objectives and metrics are companies setting in terms of engagement initiatives, and knowing if they're successful?
That's a good question. Obviously, revenue is really important, but also retention, loyalty is, I think, one of the biggest part of consumer engagement. Because it's so competitive out there, some of the KPI is loyalty, retention, revenue. I would say those are the 2 big ones. Some of them might be cost, but I think the first 2 are the big one motivators, and obviously compliance.
Just in general, do you think, how well do you think companies are doing meeting those objectives? Are engagement strategies, engagement initiatives working?
I would have to say that because technology changes so fast, I think all our clients are really building those solutions, consumer engagements, but they know that they always have to do more because of technology is changing and they're looking more personalization. Like, what we talked about, we believe that consumer engagement is really creating those intimate relationships. They're realizing that not only you need to be online, that you have to be digitized, but also you need to be able to intimately relate to that consumer and be able to provide that information at the right time. So those are the kind of things that are popping up that we're seeing clients want more and more, so they could create that loyalty for their services.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you both. So we see that the majority are saying that their current engagement methods may be somewhat ineffective. So that's the good part there is that everybody's, looking at their consumer engagement, what they currently have, and determining what is working and what is not. And so hopefully, as we get into Eeyore section, we'll be able to show you a little bit about how we help try to define that success and to make it a little bit more successful for you. So with that, I will turn the program over to Eeyore.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone again. So let me speak a little bit about consumer engagement platform vision. And we would like to state this as consumer digital front door for a patient or member of an insurance organization to take action to improve health and of course, make informed decision and interact efficiently with healthcare systems. That's our definition of it. And obviously there are a lot more on the market like that. But we tend to think this is one of the most consent and best. The benefits of such solutions from the consumer perspective is obviously much better satisfaction. They feel more engaged, more informed, and they feel like consumer. Right now it's an era of consumerism in healthcare, and they feel empowered and well treated. And from organization standpoint, this is the opportunity to build intimate relationship, which means all the things that was mentioned about loyalty, retention, and brand awareness, of course, right? So, and around this, we also expect some level of automation. And also organization should enjoy and also leverage the data that coming back from consumer engagement platform to build even better strategy. Because the more data you have, the better you're empowered to make decisions and to make this personalized touch points and to analyze overall population health, which is very important in the era of transforming from fee-for-service payment models to fee-for-value or quality. All right, so we have at SoftServe our own delivery framework that we used for many years to build different type of custom solutions. And it consists essentially of those 3 steps. On the first stage, which is one of the most important, we discover the business objectives, company strategy, but also we spend a lot of time and invest the exercises, how to learn the user, in this case, consumer. It should go down very deep. It's usually organization like tend to think subject matter experts on the table will draw some picture of the consumer, and from that point they will start building the solution. And that's essentially a wrong part, as we understood from the years of doing those things. You actually should invite the consumer to the discussion. You should know them personally, like you know your relatives, like you know your parents, right? And then you build this empathy about the persona, and you don't invent something abstract or unnatural, but you think, will this person actually adopt that? Will they like it? Will they enjoy the way the organization treat them or communicate with them? And only after that, when you have all this mindset of a real user, you can start building the solution. Ideate around the potential option for solutions. It doesn't mean it's already right. You should also test them with real consumers, and you have this have a couple of loops of the exercise back and front to make sure that what you're doing is right. And only after that you start building the typical things that we do in software development, like user experience, artifacts, clickable prototypes, the solution roadmap and backlog and architecture, of course. And all of this goes to the next stage, where we leverage our partnership with the cloud partners and IE development platforms. And also we utilize our own SDK software development kits, so tools that we can imply or utilize to build the custom solution very effectively from time and cost perspective. So yeah, that's how we do this. This is our delivery framework to build such a solution.
Igor, can I ask I'm curious about the user personas and empathy map. You know, I'd said earlier that, you know, intimately knowing our customers, you know, was so critical to that, you know, kind of the feedback loop. How does the, you know, the exercise of, you know, the empathy maps and customer journeys, and how does that influence, you know, the kind of the structure and the design of that, you know, the data philosophy around understanding your customer?
It's essentially the most important part, as for me. If you miss this one, you're gonna have a high chance of missing everything else down the road. And that should be invested a lot. Our previous cooperation with many clients, they just invite a couple of consumers, giving them $50 gift card from Amazon. They sit with us, they communicate, and we learn them, and we see what kind of challenges those people have, because you cannot even imagine. You think you know, because you're also a consumer, you're also a kind of patient in the past or present, and you think you know how to do things, but that's a false assumption. You should always invite the real people that that kind of touch the organization services and speak on behalf of them later on. So you should put yourself into the shoes of the consumer. That's drive everything else.
Okay, thank you.
And on this slide, I would like to talk a little bit. It's not technical, so I will just note a couple of points. This is our understanding of reference architecture that we defined using the delivery framework, which I discussed on the previous slide. So what you can see here is the consumer engagement platform actually sits in the middle. It's utilized all the benefits of existing IT ecosystem that organization already have. And it provides the additional value from that. What is this value? Because consumer engagement platform is essentially the communication orchestration solution. What it does, it's a perfect, let's say, smart communication platform. It has this notion of multi or omnichannel communication. So different channel, it can forward to the consumer different type of information, asking specific questions about health condition, engaging into the activities that is planned by care team members and physicians. Right? And all this also improve, of course, the consumer journey, but also collect the data back to the organization that can be later utilized for even better measuring the strategy, improving the population health and the consumer engagement as well. So, but the thing I would like to emphasize here, we wanted to have this perfect blend or mix of the services. This is the digital service that is touching the consumer, but also human-to-human interaction should be part of it. Without that, we noticed that consumer engagement is not so much efficient. That's why you can see care team members is part of the overall consumer engagement strategy, and they engaging those users is also important. They build this relationship, and a platform only help them to automate this process, to make it much more efficient and less manual. And the organization leverage all this information which they collected from care physician and consumers to drive the strategy initiatives and oversee overall success of the strategy. So data as an assets and human-to-human interactions is the essential building parts of this platform. All right.
So what I'm hearing you say then is, you can't just have a portal. You can't just have a mobile device. You need to have different methodologies and different processes, I guess, for lack of a better term, to meet all of the various consumers and all the, I'm thinking out loud here about, just different age groups and how they interact better. I know some, older people that do very well on a mobile device, and I know some that, look at it like, well, what happened to my telephone?
Yeah,
so sure. It sounds like you need a combination of that to actually have a very good platform.
Yeah, so the path to success is to learn the consumer first, right? And then later on you have flexibility within the platform to configure the communication channel according to consumer preferences. We learned from our experience that older generation adopts very well texting, younger generation mobile phone, and some people in the middle very well adopts web solutions, right? Recently, in a couple of years, the chatbot system, voice-to-text technology is rising, and has a even better adoption. And there is the security issues around those. But still it's growing up, and trends on the market that it's more and more adoption on that space. You can see here there's a lot of methods, right? How to contact patients. It's a telehealth and telehealth capabilities, and capability to ask the patient right question at the right time at the right point, right? And it shouldn't be disturbing. This is the very important thing, how to build this relationship so they're not bothering people, but bring value to them. Remind about important just in place, right? And help the care team members, which are overwhelmed with a lot of tasks during the day. And they have HR system, they have practice management, all this, a lot of system. They are very frustrated with many of them. So we keep them in mind too, and we automate the way they work within the system. They do not enter the same information twice. We have EHR and practice management system for that. They do utilize patient automatically responded information to make a decision. They are alerted if something bad happening, and that's all happening in automated fashion. All right.
Thanks, Igor.
So now we have time for a poll question, I guess.
Yes. So our next poll question is consumer engagement beneficial to allow patient and members to take better control of their own health care and manage chronic care conditions? So our answers are yes. It helps greatly increase their care options. You don't really believe that it helps or affects their care outcomes, or no, even with the superior engagement tools, the patient and some members will not take better control of their health care. So we'll give a few seconds here for the group to review that and voice their opinion. Awesome. So everybody agrees by having a good consumer engagement platform is going to actually greatly increase the care options and hopefully the care outcomes, as well as manage those chronic conditions.
All right, so it's a demo time. I would shortly demonstrate the solution which we have been talking about in the previous couple of slides. And then we have a couple of more demonstrations of our innovation solution on the next slides. So let me open this screen. And so as I explained, that there is 3 parties that participate into the engagement model, right? So it's obviously consumer, patient, and it's also there is also the organization in the equation and the care team members. I'll start from patient first. So as we have to utilize the information we have from the typical organization, we should be able to really quickly onboard them on basis of scanning the healthcare card and recovering all the information we know about them already. So this first stage will improve satisfaction for the patient, right? They know the organization already simplified the task for them. Usually you fill in 100 forms when you have any visits to the physician, right? In this case, we try to suggest that it should be very smooth, very transparent, and leverage the data you already have as much as possible. And so the first step, you can say this is the scheduling, but this is not a must-have process. We just recommend this to have to first bill, even if it's a new member of the insurance company or new patient of the network of the hospitals. You have to build this first touch, human to human, which build everything else. And that's why we suggest to have a scheduled appointment. It may be very short, maybe very convenient in form of a telehealth visit, for example, right? And you provide the patient capability to do everything, all paperwork additional if you want to have them from the convenience of their house, right? So go and take form electronically, everything digital. That's the way to go. And when you have this appointment, you just schedule it. You have a conversation with the care provider, and at the end of this conversation, on basis of your health condition, your possible challenges, you both may come up with a lightweight care plan or not so lightweight, depends on the condition, right? And from that moment, it's driven by a system how to engage person, how to remind them about important steps in the self-care, but also you always have a chance to talk back to care team members, and the system also alert them and suggest when and who needs the human-to-human interaction again. This part, and so we can see that there's a pre-diabetes person and they have this couple of tasks. It's written for today, but in the real environment, it should be spread among them in some period of time, months or something, right? So,
so you're, I had a question. So when I look at this compared to other handheld or mobile applications I've seen in the past for registering an appointment, our philosophy is to build that digital intimate relationship, and it looks to me like we're doing more of an onboarding of the patient rather than just a, hey, when's the next available appointment? Can I come in? And hopefully we'll have something happen during that appointment.
Yes. This is the starting point of the consumer intimate relationship with the organization, right? So you have this human-to-human interaction. If you just throw into some application to schedule something, that adoption is low, as our experience shows, and the overall satisfaction of the person is not so high. It should start. Everything should start from human-to-human interaction. People love to talk to people, right, or communicate with people. But the system can help with this other part, to take the routine from the shoulders of both patients and providers and make this communication efficient. Yeah.
And David, so when we looked at this, we were talking about a scheduling system, right? So we need to schedule the patient on how to improve that process. But when we actually started looking at it from a user journey point of view, we realized that there was a step missing. You just don't need just to schedule a patient to see the physician or the provider, but it's really how do you build that relationship before that? How do you gather that information? How do you create a relationship? How do you feel that patient comfortable with their care that it's been receiving? So we knew that there's a step that we called onboarding process where you actually do all of that pre-work. By the time that patient is presented, they already have all the information and they have established that, that engagement between the two parties. So this is part of that engagement process, that user consumer journey that we're talking about, that we are really looking at exactly how is that patient feeling as he's going to their visits with the physician or the care delivery people.
Yeah, absolutely. And also we have.
So that came from the.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so that came about through the user experience and the empathy mapping and the journey mapping.
Yes, that's all driven from the understanding consumer better. And as you can see, we didn't put into the task any kind of pills management solution, like reminding when you have to take a pill morning, evening, because it does bother a lot of the consumers. Like here we have main important steps in the wellness program. So this pre-diabetes person doesn't have to be in diabetes stage. We keep them out of this, and it's a preventive care, and it's population health, if you will, that will impact the overall our healthcare outcomes and the organization business benefits in one solution. So I wanted also to emphasize this. There is a lot of possibilities, and on the market there is many solutions that connect devices, and so it's an essential part of the solution too, right? So you have a device, you can connect it, whatever device you have, and then all this data is provided to you and your care team member physician. So you can see the vital signs and blood pressure, whatever vital sign this device can provide. And essentially, this is the story from a consumer point of view, right? So they see their care plan, they can follow it. And from a physician standpoint, as I was emphasizing, this solution ideally should automate everything, but we still leave the place for human-to-human interaction, as it's a much improved consumer engagement and trust of the patient to organization. And so what we can see that Linda is our consumer engagement platform. She is taking care of more than 200 patients. we can see that the 5 of them here need some intervention from the care team members, right? From 200 only 5, right? So this is the picture we can imagine on a daily basis. And but still you see the overall health of all this community of people, how they feel, how they react on the care plan, we follow it, right? It gives the powerful tool to understand what works, what doesn't from organization perspective, and also take a lot from the provider shoulders and give and empower consumers to for self-care and to bring this loyalty to the organization. They feel that they are cared about, you know. And I'll not jump probably to the organization. The organization section, it just has the analytics of all this strategy, how it goes, what kind of care plans work, what surveys has to be tuned, what chatbot has to be connected. All this is a configuration system from organization standpoint. All right, I'm returning back to the demo. I hope you like it. I put a lot of heart into it. Okay, so the next page is our couple of innovation solution, which I was promising to show you. And by the way, you have a QR code here. If you scan it, you will be redirected to the video, short video of the contactless pulse detection. Actually, this is a solution very cool. So it detects the person pulse just using the regular computer or mobile phone camera. And it's pretty accurate. It has tested with the Apple Watch. The ratio, it's like 5% deviation from the variable devices pulse detection rate. And so it's pretty cool. Take your time and watch it. The other cool solution is from the same sector on the right side is respiratory rate detection, which is in the COVID time is a very interesting solution. And it based on the texture printing on the clothes can recognize the movements of the chest and detect the breath rate and some maybe abnormality in it, the not regularity of the breath. And so that's a powerful solution. We have it as a proof of concept. We will be going to test it in the production environment soon. So, and also on the left side, we have a chatbot system which mimic the human in the room conversation. It has, it can react on different type of questions, right? So you can state the same question in a different way, still understand it, still response to it, and provide consumer or patient the answer to the questions related to him or her conditions, what kind of symptoms I might have, what kind of danger is it, should I, what kind of call to actions I should do on base of my conditions. And so people are scared at this time. So this type of solution helped a lot. So the next one is very interesting, but this is not developed yet. It's just we consider this as a proof of concept. And there is, I didn't know that, but our research showed that only in the United States, there is 12 million people that has a hearing problem. And when we researched those markets a little bit more, we understood that actually it's a challenging for them to have any kind of healthcare services. As you have two choices: invite the translator with you to the appointment, or just write down all the things you have to do, which make the meeting much more longer and complicated, right? So we come out with this idea: what if we can track the deaf patient's gesture language and translate it into text and provide it to physician. So physician can in real time understand what those people are saying and respond back. And so it translates back to the text and also gesture of the language. So, for me, it's very cool solution. I hope we can come out with the real prototype. The challenge is here though, that there is like more than 10 languages exist that deaf people are communicating with. Maybe we can choose one, the most important, and go with that. All right, so it's a Q&A time. David, pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Igor. So we have a couple questions. The first one comes from Mark. A lot of what you talk about is health psychology / confidence, emotion, intimate relationships. Do you have people in your company that have the background and can lead that effort? He didn't really see that at the beginning. So, can you answer to that as far as our depth and experience from, when we're doing those design works, the psychological piece to that? He may have muted himself, so I am going to answer that question. The answer is yes. We do have both psychology-based individuals on the engineering team, and their goal is to really, as we do those experience design maps, part of that is really understanding and learning what the needs of the consumer and the patients are, and we incorporate that into any of our designs in the platform themselves.
Yeah, a lot of times I can extend this also answer. A lot of times we work with the customers that do have this vision of interaction in mind, and we utilize their knowledge of the field and also the consumers, because they are they know consumer better than us. But we join the team, we try to research ourselves, and we also utilize the subject matter expertise they have on board, and the mix of both give us a chance to suggest the best solution which will meet those expectation the company has for the next 1 or 2 years.
I'd add in our business analyst and product management COE, we don't necessarily have psychologists, but we have a lot of people and resources who have worked in similar projects that understand at least the business requirements or the functional requirements, of the application. So a lot of times product managers and kind of have the opportunity to at least gain a fundamental understanding of those needs. So from a software development perspective, that helps in terms of connecting to the SMEs, whether they're third-party SMEs or whether they're SMEs like Igor pointed out that are part of the client organization.
Thank you both. The next question we have is from Andrew, and he asked, you've described you've described great engagement processes, but how do you evidence that these processes lead to better clinical outcomes? Have you any data to demonstrate the improved outcomes?
Yeah, I'll answer that. That kind of goes back to one of my slides, and when we're talking about the 3 R's, that's not necessarily an exhaustive list. Of course, one of our objectives is could very clearly be clinical improvements, improving outcomes. So the point really to generalize is that it is critical to identify the real OKRs, the OKRs that are tied to our strategy, that are tied to our organizational strategy. And those OKRs, if they imply that we have to correlate to clinical data, then that implies that aspect of the project. So we have to build the dashboards and the reporting, the analytics that are going to support that assertion. But of course, if we don't do that, we're sort of flying blindly. But those are examples of work that we've done in terms of managing the metrics and the analytics of successful initiatives like patient engagement.
And just to add to that, I know, Igor, you had mentioned earlier at the beginning of your part of the presentation that, as organizations are moving from a fee-for-service type of a payment model to the capitated market, that the consumer engagement piece is going to be extremely important, because you don't want to provide those very expensive initial treatments, healthcare treatments to the patient, and then have them, because they're not engaged with your organization, kind of like move to outside of your network. So I think if that's something to consider as well. And if you have anything to elaborate on that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So recently, as we noticed, right, as you mentioned, it was the transition from FIFO service to FIFO value. And what it means, the paradigm of the consumer engagement should be changed. It's not more transactional. It's not transactional anymore, right? You just take in, you build, you out, right? So it has to be long-time relationship, because right now preventive care and compliance to adherence of the therapy is the main points, right? Those are the gaps in healthcare right now. And when you improve both, you have a better chance to comply, to have better financial results when you have some risk sharing model deal with CMS or any privately owned organization. And that's drive the whole other thing. Unfortunately, we don't have a very good question, a specific measure how those consumer engagement work, but we notice the general trends. We notice that human in the equation also bring to the better outcomes. Also, when you have a solution that reminds consumer and have some reward on top of it, doesn't mean to be money, but any kind of digital reward or improvement in healthcare. For example, if you follow this specific set of actions, you had a better or faster access to clinical physician next day, right? You can become a VIP patient or consumer, some type of this notion of a tiers, right? And that's some of our client applies into it, insurance companies specifically. And that's a good point, that in a new era of having patient healthy will become, fortunately, right? It's in transition right now, will become beneficial for business. Not having more patient in a hospital, but vice versa, right? Which is a shift of the mindset, but it happening slowly. And this type of platforms will be more and more popular.
Thanks, Igor. We have time for one last question, and the question is there a way to view high-level patient population information? For example, do these processes focus solely on the individual patients, or do you have a way to roll up information into the broad view?
The way to view high-level patient population information. Yes, it's from administrative application. You can take a look at all your patients list and the status of each, how they are doing, what the status of them, the ratio of compliance to the therapy or not to the therapy, just to preventive care plan. Right? You can watch those things or from the administrative part, from organization standpoint. Also, each care team member has its own subpopulation of patient assigned to them, right? And attributed to them, as they say. And so the care team members will be able to see by patient or also their smaller population of patient. And so at the end of the year, they might have a better financial outcomes for the health condition of attributed patients. That's a reward system for them, motivation system for them. As well as we noticed that primary care physicians, for example, allow to know that the suggestion they have, the consultant they have provided to patients actually work. Usually they do consult the patient, patient go to specialist and they are lost connecting. So it's improved their also self-esteem and the way they live and why do they do this.
Perfect. Thank you, Igor. Appreciate that. Well, we're at the end of our time for today. Thank you for your time. We hope that you found this webinar helpful and insightful. At the end of the webinar, you will find a post-webinar survey. I hope you will take the time to fill that out. That feedback helps us create, webinars that are meaningful to you, and we want to make sure that we're, you're taking valuable time to see the webinars. We want to make sure that we're providing the insight that you need to do that. So again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
David.
Thank you.
Stay healthy,
Bye.
stay safe. Bye-bye.